"He's back," my wife whispered at 2:13 a.m., gripping my arm so tight it hurt. I rolled over, confused. "Who's back?" Then we heard a slow step in the kitchen, and the back door creaked. "My name is Danielle Harper, and I'm 34 years old. I'm a middle school counselor in a small town. Every single day, I sit across from kids who are scared, anxious, and trying to hold themselves together in homes that feel like war zones. I help them find language for things they can't explain. I teach them that their feelings are real, even when adults dismiss them. I never thought I'd need that lesson myself. 6 months ago, my wife Emily and I bought our first home together. It wasn't big. It wasn't fancy. But the moment we signed those papers, something shifted in my chest. It was ours. A place that belonged to us. A place that was supposed to feel safe. I wasn't rich or glamorous, but I had something a lot of people don't give me credit for. I had quiet strength, and I had instincts sharpened by years of listening to what people don't say out loud, only what they carry in their silences. Growing up, I was always the responsible one, the fixer, the one who stayed calm while everyone else fell apart. That was just who I was. But lately, something felt wrong in a way I couldn't name. Emily had been tense for weeks. She'd flinch at noises. She checked the locks twice, sometimes 3 times, before bed. She'd go quiet in a way that wasn't peaceful. It was the quiet of someone bracing for something. And that night, at 2:13 a.m., when she said, "He's back," I knew this wasn't just anxiety talking. This was history. And it had found our address. If you've ever felt unsafe somewhere that was supposed to be your peace, hit that subscribe button. Have you ever ignored a red flag because you didn't want to seem dramatic? Click hype or like if you believe your instincts matter. Let's get into what really happened that night. We walked into the kitchen together, shoulder to shoulder. The back door was slightly open, not swinging, just open enough to let in the cold night air and a feeling that made my stomach drop. Muddy footprints trailed from the door to the sink, and then they just stopped, like whoever left them had stood there and watched and then vanished. Emily started shaking, not a little tremble, full body shaking. "He used to do that," she said. "Leave things, move things, just to prove he could get in." The police arrived within 10 minutes. They searched the yard, the alley behind the fence, the surrounding street. Nothing, nobody. One officer crouched beside Emily and asked gently, "Ma'am, are you sure this isn't someone you know?" That's when Emily finally said the name she hadn't said in years. Ryan, her ex-boyfriend. A man who had stalked her before we ever met. He used to show up uninvited, leave notes tucked under her windshield, stand across the street just watching her apartment windows. I stood very still, listening to all of this. "Why didn't you tell me how serious it was?" I asked her later, when the officers had gone. She whispered, "I thought it was over." The next morning, her mother stopped by. I watched her look at the dried mud on our kitchen floor and shake her head slowly. "You're overreacting," she said. Ryan was harmless. He just loved her too much. That comment sat in my chest like a stone. It felt less like comfort and more like blame. Like somehow Emily and I had invited this. Then the security footage came through from our doorbell camera. A shadow near the backyard fence, caught at exactly 2:11 a.m., 2 minutes before Emily woke up. Then the footage cut out completely. That was not a coincidence. And I was done pretending it might be. Emily's parents refused to support filing for a restraining order. Her father sat across from us at their kitchen table and said, "You'll ruin his life over footprints." "What about ours?" I said. My voice was level. I wasn't yelling, but I meant every word. It didn't matter. They had already decided. Danielle was the dramatic outsider. Danielle was making things bigger than they were. That was the story they chose, and they were sticking to it. A week later, Emily's father made a joke at a family barbecue. Something about guard dogs and ghost stories. People laughed. I felt my face go still. Emily didn't say anything. I understood why. She was caught between me and the people who raised her. But the silence still stung. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, I found a small rock on the front porch. A note was tied around it with a thin piece of string. I unfolded it carefully. "You can't keep her from me." I photographed it before I touched anything else. I called the police. They came, took the note, and told me the evidence was still too thin without clear footage of a person. I didn't argue. I just nodded. And I started building something they couldn't dismiss. I changed the locks that same week. I installed 2 visible security cameras at the front and back of the house. I began keeping a written log of every incident with exact dates, times, and details. I researched stalking laws in our state until I understood them better than most people without a law degree. They thought I was scared. I was focused. What they didn't know was that I had a plan they never saw coming. Before I became a school counselor, I spent 2 semesters studying digital forensics. Most people in my life thought it was a random detour that led nowhere. It led here. I still remembered how to recover deleted files, how to trace IP addresses, how to read a router log the way other people read a news article. One night after Emily fell asleep, I sat down at the kitchen table with my laptop and pulled up our router history. My eyes moved slowly down the list of connection attempts. There it was. Repeated attempts from an unknown device. The timestamps placed it parked close by, in the middle of the night, across multiple evenings. I didn't say anything to Emily yet, not until I had something solid. Something that couldn't be laughed off at a barbecue or waved away by a parent defending the wrong person. I went to the hardware store the next morning and bought a small secondary camera. I installed it inside the kitchen vent, angled toward the back door. It was invisible unless you were looking directly into the slats from 6 inches away. If he came back, I'd have more than muddy footprints. I had patience, and I had skills they completely underestimated. I called my childhood friend Megan around that time. She'd become a paralegal, and more importantly, she was the kind of person who listened without immediately telling you what to do. "Document everything," she said. "Every single thing. Don't let them make you doubt what you know." She walked me through the structure of building a stalking case. What courts look for. What tends to get dismissed and why. What sticks. Meanwhile, Ryan's car was spotted twice near the neighborhood by a neighbor who didn't even know our situation. She just mentioned it casually over the fence one afternoon, describing a dark sedan that had been idling on the street 2 nights in a row. I wrote it down immediately. Ryan denied everything. Of course he did. Megan connected me with a private investigator she trusted, a quiet woman named Carol who had 20 years of experience and the kind of calm that comes from having seen everything. Carol started documenting Ryan's movements without him ever knowing. Emily's parents kept insisting we were blowing things out of proportion. I let them talk. I kept building that. Emily began watching me during those weeks, not with worry, with something closer to trust. She saw that I wasn't panicking. I wasn't shrinking. I was working. The family thought I was falling apart. They had no idea I was stacking evidence the way you stack bricks, one by one, patient and deliberate. The day of the restraining order hearing, Ryan walked into the lawyer's office, looking comfortable. He sat down, adjusted his collar, and glanced around, the room like someone who expected to walk back out in 15 minutes. He smirked when the initial questions began. "I haven't been near them," he said. Smooth and easy, like he'd rehearsed it. Emily's parents sat directly behind him. Neither of them could meet my eyes. When it was my turn, I requested permission to present digital evidence. The attorney nodded. I pulled up the router logs first. Connection attempts from a device registered to Ryan's phone number, appearing in our network's perimeter range on 6 separate nights. Each timestamp was precise. Each one matched a night when something had felt wrong in that house. Then I opened the secondary camera footage. There he was, 2:12 a.m. walking through our backyard in dark clothing and muddy boots, moving toward the back door with the ease of someone who had done it before. The room went quiet in a way that felt different from ordinary silence. I kept my voice steady. "You left footprints in my kitchen, but you also left a digital trail." The attorney confirmed the metadata timestamps matched the footage without any signs of tampering. Emily stood up. Her voice didn't shake. "You scared me for years. It ends now." The judge granted an immediate restraining order and forwarded the full evidence. Package for criminal charges. Ryan's confidence didn't fade slowly. It collapsed, like something hollow that had finally been pressed too hard. Emily's parents sat very still. No jokes, no dismissals. Just the particular silence of people realizing they defended the wrong person. In the weeks that followed, Ryan faced real legal consequences. The restraining order held. Criminal proceedings moved forward. Emily came to me one evening while I was sitting on the back porch. She sat beside me and said, "I should have trusted you sooner." "I'm sorry." I told her the truth. I understood why it took time. Fear doesn't always move in a straight line. I set firm, clear boundaries with her parents. Not with anger, with the kind of calm that comes after you've already won the hard part. Our home felt different after that. Not because the fear had completely disappeared, but because we had stopped waiting for permission to protect ourselves. I thought about it a lot in those quiet evenings. Safety isn't about bigger locks or better cameras, though those things help. It's about believing yourself when something feels wrong. It's about not apologizing for your instincts just because someone else finds them inconvenient. Strength doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's patient. Sometimes it shows up as a woman at a kitchen table at midnight, reading router logs while everyone else is asleep. And sometimes, muddy footprints are the beginning of justice. If you've ever had someone dismiss your fear or tell you you're overreacting, I see you. Have you dealt with stalking or not being believed when you felt unsafe? Share your story in the comments. Subscribe so we can build a space where instincts are respected. Click hype to help this story reach others who need it. Standing up for yourself is tough. If you've been there, subscribe and become part of this community. Let me know this story helped by clicking hype, and tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel.